Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about building your brand on Twitter. My name's Kate Drake. I'm the director of Social 5 University, and I'll be kind of walking you through this. If you have any questions as we go along, feel free to ask, and I'll try and answer them as we go. And if not, we can certainly follow them up with them later. Obviously, this is an advanced session, but it's still fairly basic information. So if you have anything that you'd like to know more about, that'd be great. All right, so, I'm getting my PowerPoint is not on. All right, can you guys see my PowerPoint presentation now? If you can see it, raise your hand or shoot me a message. I'm still seeing a no. Can anybody see it? Oh, maybe. Let's see here, screen sharing. Oh, there we go. We need to show the screen. That will help. All right, can you guys see it now? Yes, okay, wonderful. All right, thanks so much for the heads up, guys. I unclicked that button, so I appreciate it. All right, so Twitter, building your Twitter following and building your brand on Twitter. This is kind of a fun topic. So it's still kind of basic, even though it's an advanced session, but it definitely goes beyond just tweeting and sending things out. So we'll go ahead and get started. So basic things about Twitter. We're going to talk a little bit today about understanding some of the Twitter terminology, because Twitter really does sort of have its own lexicon when it comes to posting and everything. It's just slightly different than everybody else, and so it has kind of its own set of terms and things that we need to talk a little bit about. We need to talk about how to optimize your profile, strategies for gaining followers, and taking advantage of some of the trends that are going on Twitter. So again, these are a little more beyond just learning how to tweet or whatnot. So we'll go ahead and get started on those. So some Twitter terminology. Have you ever scratched your head and wondered what symbols such as pound, at, or the RT stand for? This is a quick tutorial you need to know on Twitter. So obviously a tweet. We talked a little bit about this in the last webinar too. Posts on Twitter are referred to as tweets. And again, you can also call it a post, but the lexicon is that we usually call it a tweet. These posts should be no more than 140 characters long. And if they've been shared from another person's profile, you'll usually see the abbreviation RT, or sometimes depending on how the person has done it, there's a button that says that the content has been retweeted. So that's where if I follow someone like, I don't know, Beyonce or something, and I really like what she's tweeted, I could send out, retweet her tweet, and it would explain what she's been, or it would explain that it wasn't my thought originally, it's what Beyonce is saying. Hashtag. So a lot of us, who grew up in the age of like dial-up phones and everything, to us, this is the pound sign, and you may still hear that. I actually had my young cousin was on an automated phone call the other day, and she said, it tells me to hit the pound sign. What's that? And I said, it's this sign right here, the number sign. And she was like, oh, the hashtag sign? So clearly there's a little bit of a generational shift taking place there. But yeah, the pound sign or the number sign is what we call a hashtag. And these, like it says here, they're the secret ingredient for trending on Twitter. They're basically a way that we categorize content and make it so that you can find things on Twitter. It's basically like a search term, and anything that comes with a hashtag before it can be searched. And then the @ sign. This symbol is used to target individuals on Twitter so that your content can show up on their Twitter feed. So, for us here at Social 5, our Twitter handle, as they call it, is @Social5Media. You're going to see that before everybody. So there is a little bit of a difference. You can either do a hashtag if you're mentioning a company or a product or something, but you can also do the @ sign. And that's what we would recommend if they're on Twitter, that you use the @ sign. And that will target them and let them know that you've tweeted about them. So that's kind of a cool little thing. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about how to optimize your profile. So to make the most of your strategy, you really want to start by developing your profile. The keywords and the data used here are going to make it more easily searchable for you to be online. So this is important for your SEO or your search engine optimization and things like that. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to log into your Twitter account by going to twitter.com. And obviously you can do this on a mobile device. A lot of people use a mobile device for Twitter and to send their tweets, but when you're doing all this stuff with your profile, I'd recommend doing it on a desktop. It's just a little bit easier, or a laptop, obviously, but something with a bigger screen. I don't know if you guys ever run into that problem where you hit the wrong button and things like that. So a computer is going to be a better way to do this. So go ahead and log into your account. You're going to be asked to enter your username and password, which you should still have access to even if you're or a Social 5 customer. Next, you're going to click on your profile, and that's going to be located on the left-hand side of your screen. And then your page will appear, and it'll pull up, and it'll have your company logos and everything like that. And this is where you can make any changes that you want to that profile. Oh, sorry. So continuing on how to optimize your profile. So these little things that you can do are going to make your page more search friendly. So if you want to, you can change your profile picture or change your Twitter header. If you've had graphics designed by us, you might not want to change that too often, just because it can, the sizing can be a little bit weird and you want to make sure it looks nice. But if you have a new profile picture that you want to use or whatever, you can do that. But the more important part here is down below where you can add information about your business. So you can talk a little bit you can add a business description, you can mention your location and your website address. And those are all things that we really recommend making sure you have on your Twitter profile. You want to make sure that people are finding you in the location your local audience is able to find you, especially if you're kind of a brick and mortar type business. If you're a web-based business, it's not as important, but it's still good because it kind of lets people know where you're at. And again, your website address is very important because you want people to be able to know where you're located at. So now that we've optimized your profile, we're going to talk a little bit about gaining some followers. And that's really the important part because, you can tweet all you want, but if no one's listening, it doesn't really matter. Well, it looks like do we have a question? No? Okay. It looks like someone's saying that the sound is not coming across very well. Is anybody else having trouble with sound? One thing you might want to do is you might want to check your internet connection. I know I was just talking to a guy here in our office, and he was saying he could hear me through the wall, but not on his computer because he was on a different network than I was. So you might want to check your Wi-Fi network if you're having trouble with the sound. Okay. It sounds like everybody else can hear okay. So sorry about that for the aside, but hopefully, Tom, that will help you. Anyway, so again, you want to make sure that you've got someone actually paying attention to what you're tweeting, right? Because if you're, it's that whole thing about like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear, does it really happen sort of thing. So first, what you want to do is find your audience. And this is kind of a fun part where you get to engage in like a little bit of like corporate espionage and pretend you're some sort of spy or whatever. Go online and go onto Twitter and search for your competitors. Look for any trade organizations that you belong to, attractions in your city, or other places where your audience might reside. So if I'm here in Salt Lake City, I'm going to look up the Salt Lake City Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to look up, things to do in Salt Lake City, places around here, and anybody who, if I'm targeting young mothers, I'm going to look up stuff that kids like to do or something like that. If I'm targeting sports fans, I'm going to look up the University of Utah and the Utah Jazz and Real Salt Lake as the sports teams, right? So just kind of go in and look around and see some of the, different attractions, different audiences that you might be able to follow. Sorry, you can see right here, this is where you would search in the Twitter bar. So you can enter places to visit, your competition's name, a local team, a local attraction, whatever. So here's an example. So once you've identified your competitor, your trade organization, or your city attraction, you want to click on their followers. So here's an example. This is a chain restaurant here. It's actually nationwide, called Cafe Rio. I don't know if any of you guys have been there before, but we used to do social media for their direct competitor. And so what we did to build up their Twitter following is we went on to Cafe Rio and saw who was following them. And and then we went on and followed their followers. So each time you click a follow for someone, that individual will receive a notification that lets them know that they have a new follower. So, say you've got something like, your Universal Studios, and you want to attract more people away from Disney, right? Because those are the two big competitors. So you would go on to the Disney World Twitter page, and you'd follow everybody who follows Disney World. And then they would be like, oh, cool, Universal Studios started following me. That's kind of interesting too, because I'm interested in theme parks, and they'd start following you back. In this case, we followed a bunch of Cafe Rio's followers. They see, oh, this other Mexican restaurant is following me. I like Mexican food. I'll follow them too. And it's great because people like to follow you because they'll get, updates on, deals you may have or cool stuff or whatnot. So, it may seem a little underhanded to go on and follow your competitors' followers, but, it's the same as like advertising or billboards or something like that, right? So that's where that comes from. You can see right here where the hand is pointing, where you can see their followers. You click on that and it'll bring up a page like this that you see here on the right that will have the followers of everyone on their list. And you don't necessarily need to follow all of them. You just may want to look at their list and go, oh, okay, who's this person? Okay, they look like they'd be in my demographic. That's the person I want to target. So it does take a bit of time, but it's well worth it. And then once you have found the person you want to follow, you just click that little follow button and it will follow them. All right, so now we've started following some people and hopefully you've gotten some people following you back. The next thing we want to do is try and take advantage of some of the trends that are going on Twitter. And more than, Facebook sure has trends and everything, but Twitter is really the place where trends are happening. And that's because it is such a quick moving social medium. You can have thousands of tweets an hour, whereas in Facebook, if someone posted something 4 hours ago, it might still show up in your newsfeed. Depending, if you follow a lot of people on Twitter, that's going to be gone. So taking advantage of what's trending is really a great way to get seen. So one thing we encourage you to do is to increase the virality of your page. Look for opportunities to incorporate a trending hashtag into your tweet. And so these can be found at the lower left-hand side of your page. So when you've logged onto Twitter, you can look down there at the bottom and see right here where we'll have the trends. I pulled this today, the Salt Lake City trends. So I don't even know what some of them are. KSLAM, National Dog Day was yesterday. That's still trending. Women's Equality Day was yesterday. There was a Luke Bryan concert here in Salt Lake, so that's trending. So some of them you're not totally going to understand what it means. And if that's the case, probably don't tweet about it, right? But, if you have a cute dog photo that you want to share for National Dog Day and you see that that's trending, go ahead and share it. It's really fun. And the nice part about that is that then when people search for hashtag National Dog Day, yours will be included. As you can see, here's the trends for, I'm sorry, I forgot that I had these little pointy things. All right. So taking advantage of these trends. So by default, if you haven't entered any location information, Twitter will display the national trends, and you can choose to localize those by clicking on the change button that's shown below. And it'll give you options to choose from different places. So as you can see here in Salt Lake, they've given me nearby locations like Salt Lake, Las Vegas, Denver, Albuquerque, Phoenix, Mesa. You're not going to see one for every single town, So if you're in a small town or a suburb or something like that, you're just going to need to follow the closest metropolitan area to you. So you're going to pick your location, and that'll allow you to see what hashtags are trending in your specific geography. Now, again, if you're a brick and mortar business, this specific geography is going to be more important. If you're a web-based business and it doesn't matter who you do business with, you don't necessarily need to pick a geographic location. There is down here at the bottom, you can see worldwide trends. So you can choose to do that as well. Oh, sorry. More hands pointing. All right. That's it. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. One question. Oh, this is a really good question. Is there a negative perception in following more people than you have followers? And I would say no. I think a lot of businesses out there are trying to follow more people than they have followers. And part of the reason for that is, you want to stay on top of what's going on in your industry and everything. So it's totally fine to be following. I mean, you're going to be following some people, obviously, who are never going to follow you back. If you're following celebrities or news organizations or something like that, they're never going to follow you back because there's just too many of them, right? They've got too many people. So if you're following, CNN or something like that to get news updates, CNN's probably not going to follow you back. And so there's no harm in that. And again, as you're going out and building that audience, it's okay. Some of the things that you might see some people do are they'll put a hashtag on like follow for follow or things like that. And you can do that if you want. I see it on Instagram all the time with like younger people who are trying to become like the next fashionista and they want people to follow them on Instagram. And they're saying, if you follow me, I'll follow you. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. It's totally fine to be following more people than you actually have followers. And I would say that that's actually generally the case for most people. All right. Let's see. When you set up a package, do you set up some followers for us, or do we need to do all the work to get the followers? So you are going to have some followers added. We'll go on and follow, industry leaders or things like that, and try and get you some people that you're following and some followers that are as we get started. But this is something that we'd encourage you to revisit every now and then. Look at the people who are following. The other thing you can do is look at the people who are following you and look at their followers. And so if I'm looking at who's following Social 5 Media, and I see that we have someone who comments on our posts a lot, I'm going to go out and look at who they're following and add those to the people I follow and try and build my network that way. So you do get a few at the beginning, but we'd encourage you all the time to be always looking for more followers. Another thing you can do is look at the hashtags that relate specifically to your industry and start following people who use those hashtags a lot. So, all right. Are followers always public? Can I hide my followers from others? And that is a hard thing on Twitter. It's, we need to assume that we're in the public sphere here. There's not really a way for you to hide who's following you, or for it to be a secret. So, but there's, it's okay because unlike Facebook where you have to accept someone as a friend, on Twitter, anybody can follow you. And that's okay, because everybody understands that, and no one's going to think you're weird because some weird thing is following you or something like that. I hope that makes sense. So, all right. When you're looking at your competitors' followers, is there a way to search for local accounts? Unfortunately, there isn't really. It kind of will just pull up, all their followers, which can be a lot of people sometimes. But usually it sorts them, depending on kind of whatever algorithm is going on Twitter that day. It'll be sorted in a way. And some of them may be, followers that you have in common or followers that are near you or whatnot. So you can also do a search for just if you're looking for local accounts. Again, a great way to do that is through the search tool and search for things that are of local interest. So that's a really good way to do it too. Can you block inappropriate followers? That is a really good question. And you can't, that's a tough one. If someone is following you and they're harassing you or something like that on Twitter, you can definitely report them, and Twitter will look into it and investigate them. So for the most part, you're not going to want to have anyone unfollow you, because for the most part, they're going to be okay. But if someone is following you and harassing you, you can definitely, have Twitter look into that. But if it's just your competition who's following you, Twitter's not going to do anything about that, because really you should be following them too, right? So it's kind of a back and forth that way. But if someone is really inappropriate or posting inappropriate things, mentioning you or whatnot, you can definitely report that to Twitter, and they will look into it and can either shut down that account or remove them or discipline them in that way. So, all right. Does anybody have any other questions? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and sign off then. And thank you all so much for being here. We sure appreciate it. And we'll be coming back in a couple of weeks with some more webinars. So look for an invite for those. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.